All right.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Play with the World, this self-love experiment interview series. I am so excited to be here today. I'm here with the beautiful Andrea Owen. Hi, Andrea.
Hi.
How's it going today?
Good. I'm excited to have this conversation with you and all of your people.
Yeah, this is going to be super. So we're doing these mini workshops in the spirit of really getting in touch with our best selves and falling in love with ourselves. But before we dive into today's topic, I want to share a little bit more about Andrea. She has this awesome website. She's the founder of Your Kick-Ass Life, and she has great books. I read her book, 52 Ways to Live a Kick-Ass Life. When was it? 2013?
12, 13?
12?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, this girl is amazing. And then I found out we have the same book agent. So shout out to Steve. We love Steve. And so we've kind of become friends throughout the work that we do. So Andrea, tell us a little bit more about what's up for you right now, how you got into what you're doing, and just share with us.
That's a meaty question. How did I get into this? Well, my life fell apart and I decided to change it. Really, that's a very, very short version. About 11 years ago, and I put myself on the fast track to personal development. I'd been kind of like interested in it, like over there, but had never taken the dive. And I did when everything fell apart, and I ran with it and then decided to become a life coach. The thing they don't tell you about life coaching is that you really have to work on your own stuff at the same time.
Totally.
So I, begrudgingly did that, but then quickly learned how much I love it, and now consider myself a self-help junkie, and got sober, wrote a book, had a couple kids. Life has been so incredibly amazing. And I wrote a second book that's coming out in December, January-ish. And it's just awesome.
It's so good. I love seeing all of what you're doing, what you're putting out there. And it's super exciting to have you here today so we can share some of your amazing wisdom with everyone who's watching. So we have a mini workshop that we put together today, and it's how to release shame and guilt. I was talking to Andrea a couple weeks ago, and she was like, this is the topic we got to talk about. This is it. And so what we're going to do today is give you our tips based on our principles and our teaching to really help you release the burdens that are really holding you back. And so, Andrea, what's your first tip for how we can release shame and guilt?
Oh my gosh. Everyone should know I was joking with Shannon earlier, and I was like, how are we going to have this conversation in 20 minutes? Because I could talk about this all day. So I will jump in. I think that, my first tip is that to look at the behaviors and habits that you are doing that you probably unconsciously make up are protecting you from shame. So what those typically look like, it is the perfectionism, it's the control, it's the numbing out, it's the hiding out, the self-sabotage. I mean, those are just 5 of probably the most common ones that I see. People pleasing is another one, where we do these because it's what we know. It's not your fault. It's what we have been brought up doing. It's what was probably modeled for us. It's what we know. And I would really look at those and, write those down if you want to, maybe even just like start with perfectionism. Like, what are you worried about happening if you aren't perfect? What are you worried might happen if you don't people please all the time? What are you worried might happen if you actually are successful? Because that's where self-sabotage comes in. Absolutely. And I think that's just sort of like a jump starter into self-awareness around it. I mean, it's just a really great place to start, because self-awareness is half the battle, wouldn't you say?
Oh, 100%. And I think all of this and what we're doing is about becoming more self-aware. So that's beautiful. I actually encourage anybody who's watching, pull out a journal. This is journal stuff today, your joy journal, because take some notes here, because you can actually ask yourself these questions that are coming up for you. Good, I love it. Tip number 1. Okay. Well, tip number 2 is really going to be, and I talk about this in my book, The Self-Love Experiment, to turn your fear into fascination. And so a lot of what happens is we have fears that come up for us, and fear, shame and guilt is actually just a side effect of fear. And what happens is we focus more on the lack, and we're focusing all of our attention on what is not working, and this keeps us from moving forward. And so when I say turn your fear into fascination, it's about looking at that shame that keeps getting really loud in your head and asking, going deeper and saying, why is this here? What is it I'm really afraid of? Similar to what Andrea just said, we run, or we overwork, we over-exercise, we overeat, we overanalyze, we overworry. We're overing our feelings, and it's really preventing us from feeling what we need to feel. And so when I say turn your fear, which is turn your shame and guilt and fear and these emotions that we're trying to avoid into fascination, it's about being aware that they can actually help you when you look at them, and it can help you move forward. So the simple question to ask yourself is, what is this trying to tell me? What is my shame trying to show me? What is it really? Is it really, it's not always the surface that we think. So just kind of ponder on that one for a sec.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Love it.
Move into your next tip.
My next tip, I feel like I need to put on my tip shoes.
Number 3. I know, it's like,
is really about self-compassion. And I think that so much of the struggle and pain that we feel is around the way that we speak to ourselves. And this is really the biggest thing that I talk to my clients about, and the women in my classes is I actually just started with a client this morning, and doing my intake, and I asked her, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the absolute worst, 0 being non-existent at all, where is your negative self-talk? And and she gave me an answer, and that might be a question to ask yourself. And like, is your negative self-talk your baseline? Are you beating yourself on a pretty consistent basis? And the end goal, what I would love to say all of you people run out and do, is to give yourself a break and be compassionate with yourself. Everyone struggles. Everyone is imperfect. Everyone makes mistakes, et cetera, et cetera. However, I find that when I give that advice, which I don't anymore, because I feel like it is like jumping from A to Z, and it can be damn near impossible for people. So what I actually like a baby step in that direction is to just notice when you're doing it. And I like to give people the tool of the mantra. And it really is just like, when you find yourself beating yourself up, it could be happening for 2 minutes. It could have been happening for 20 days in a row. Yes. But once you realize it's happening and you tell yourself something like, oh, my favorite is, I tell myself, like, well, that just happened. Right. So it's neutral. It's not about turning it around and telling myself these like flowery positive affirmations, which quite frankly, if I'm really in like a downward spiral, I'm just not going to believe it. And it's not about overthinking it and like overanalyzing, like you might just not have time. And that's okay. And so it really is just about having the mantra be neutral, not telling it to piss off. Like, don't be mean to your inner critic, that negative voice. Just notice it. You can say something like, I heard you. Thanks for sharing that. Not interested in what you're selling. Like, Elizabeth Gilbert had a great one on a podcast. I heard her say, I don't need you to suffer anymore. Yeah. That was it.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Yeah.
Just a few words.
I know. I love that. And in Big Magic, she talks about that. Did you read that, Big Magic?
I haven't read it all the way through. I just looked at it at the book. Yeah. I mean, it's on my list.
But she talks about that, and I kind of allude to that. I actually mentioned that in my book, where it's like fear is in the driver's seat. And she's finally said, you know what? You cannot drive anymore. You can come along for the ride. And I love what you're saying, because it's like, you know what? It's neutral, because we are human. It is part of our experience to feel these emotions. And when we judge these emotions, that's actually when they become like the more chaotic part of us. And that's actually the next part, the next tip, is to actually not judge our judgy thoughts. Like, to actually, it's so similar to what you're saying, in the sense that when we judge our habits and when we judge the things we do that we feel shame around and that we have guilt around, that judgment is often so much more catastrophic than the actual thing that we're doing. And it's the inner critic and the pain that we're causing about feeling like we have messed up, feeling like we're off track, feeling like we don't belong, that's really hindering our ability to be present and to move forward. So on the same token, if the next time you overeat, or the next time you overspend and you don't know how you're going to make the next bill, or whatever the situation is that's causing you this extreme stress, instead of saying, I did it again, I'm worthless, the inner critic takes over. It's like really being passionate and saying, you know what, this is happening, like you said, the neutral effect, but I don't have to judge myself for being this way. This happened. I can learn from it again and allow myself to be in this experience, and then say, how can I be better? How can I, as Gretchen Rubin says, be better than before, right? So take that step to kind of just be self-aware. So that's that. Beautifully sync together our tips. And then we have a next tip from
which I have another one that syncs with that other one. And it's funny, I didn't really prepare this ahead of time because I knew I had so many. I'm like, I'm just going to kind of go with whatever comes to mind. And my last one is to reach out for help, because, and this was another really big one, and I want to kind of unpack it a little bit and also mention an objection, which I'm sure some people are like, but I don't have anybody. I will talk about that in a second. But this really is like what you were saying, we judge our mistakes. We judge we judge our emotions, like all Judgy McJudgersons is what I call them.
Yeah, I love that.
When we don't talk about our struggles, we tend to convince ourselves that we are the only ones that have these struggles. I don't want to burden anybody else with my problems. So doesn't have those types of problems. I'm going to be so embarrassed or humiliated to do that. Well, Shannon's life is perfect. Why would I even want to talk about that? It's just too much, et cetera, et cetera. So we convince ourselves that we are really unworthy of sharing. Yes. And what I want to speak to is that, like, you cannot, and Brene Brown talks about this in her work, is that shame can't survive when it's spoken. Shame thrives in secrecy. So when we keep all of this inside of ourselves, that's when we tend to even like overeat more and isolate even more and try harder, and perfectionism, those behaviors that I was talking about. So it's this cycle that's never ending. Mm-hmm. So I encourage you to, I love what Brene says, share the right story with the right person at the right time.
Beautiful.
And again, this isn't leaning into the barista at Starbucks and saying, I binged last night.
Yeah.
And this person's like, I don't know you.
You're a good friend. Right.
Well, we've all done that before. Like, I think the place where people overshare the most is either in the chair in their salon or on an airplane next to somebody that they're stuck with for hours. Then you walk away and you're like,
the salon chairs, they're like therapists for sure.
Totally. That was too much. But I think that if you don't have that person, I suggest a trusted therapist. Mm-hmm. Or there are so many, go to workshops that are in your community where it's like a vision board workshop or any kind of personal development workshop where you can find people who have the capacity and the want and the desire to talk about these types of hard topics. Maybe not the first time you go have coffee with that person, but it's about nurturing these relationships one small step at a time. I mean, that's how true friendship is built, not just like right away, getting naked on the very first date. So hopefully that was helpful. That is another topic I can talk about for hours and hours, but it is about having the courage to share your story.
I think that sharing your story is so important, but also allowing yourself to open up, because there's so much fear when we we are in our heads and we isolate ourselves because we feel shameful and guilty and lonely and depressed. But as you said, just reaching out and taking that step forward, it breaks down that barrier. And all of a sudden you realize that fear that was causing so much anxiety really subsides. So take action is really the key there. I love that. So beautiful. Mm-hmm. So on that note, this is a great final tip for you guys today. And this is also, again, in the self-love experiment, but it's to show up as you are right now. So a lot of times we have so much fear around doing what we really want. I'll be a TED Talk speaker when I become a PhD, or when I lose weight, or whatever it is, or I will go travel the world, or I will go start dating again. And we put our life on hold, and because of the insecurities and the guilt and the shame that we feel and we hold inside. And so what I learned in my own journey, what I know and believe so fully, is that you have to show up as you are right now. And as you show up for yourself, day in, day out, one step at a time, stand by you start to see miracles and manifesting madness, awesome things coming to you, because you're like, wow. Because what happens as soon as you take that step, you realize the fear is in our head and it subsides. And when you show up as you are, the world starts to reflect really who you are as well, and show up to respond to the beautiful light that is you. Mm-hmm. Yes. So beautiful. Thank you. I love that. Yeah. And then because this is so much fun and I don't want to let you go just yet, do you have any other extra credit bonus tips that we can leave our audience with?
You were going to ask me that.
The final one.
Okay. I don't want to repeat myself. Really just, I mean, it does kind of dovetail about what you were saying. And I think that the people that come to me the most, they have the women, because I work with women, but I think that this can be for men too, is that they have a really hard time trusting themselves and not, second guessing their decisions and always asking for other people's opinions and needing validation from other people. And it's not really trusting that voice inside of them. And I think that when you can learn to slow down, which I know is like such a hard concept in this world that we live in, but I think that for me has been so transformative. I mean, I have the word surrender tattooed on my arm because
Beautiful.
For me, it was such a struggle to slow down and to let go of having control over everything. And that has been so completely transformative in my own life. And, for the sake of total transparency, I totally forgot like the main topic is that we were talking about.
It's all connected. It's all beautiful what you're saying. I love it. And you were talking about trust, and that's what it is, trusting ourselves and letting go.
No, I remember, but I wanted to bring it back to the original topic that we were talking about.
Release shame and guilt. It's all good.
Releasing shame and guilt. Yes. Okay. So because it is related, I actually was smart about it. So I know that for myself, in learning how to trust myself, that was a sort of vehicle, if you will, for realizing like, oh, it's okay if I'm not perfect. It's okay if I'm making these mistakes. It's okay if, I think too, I want to add quickly if I can, and just to for people to know that this isn't about eradicating your life of shame and guilt. Like shame and guilt are part of the human experience.
Yes.
And so for anyone that's listening who might be like, oh, this is, I'm going to do these tips and I'm going to not feel it anymore. You're still going to feel it. Like what we want to help you do is to move through it and to move through it with grace. And, is it going to be pretty? Probably not.
But it's rewarding.
Like we want people to be resilient. We want people to not hide in their life anymore and play small. So anyway, back to self-trust quickly, is trusting myself and watching women start to trust themselves. That is when they can, this is going to sound super woo-woo, but I know you'll love it. That's when you can truly stand in your power.
Yeah.
That's when you can truly have so much self-awareness and have the voice say, no, it's fine that I made that mistake. It's okay. Like, I'm still okay that I ate too much, and I will do better next time. I will try better next time. So it's self-trust, I think, has been so incredibly transformative for me. And really more recently, it's like the thing, like kind of the missing piece where I was like, oh yeah, that's important.
Yeah. And it is. I think it all comes back to self-trust and learning how to trust and believe in ourselves. And that's why we've connected today. So I love your extra credit tip. It's beautiful. Your bonus.
And then I showed everyone how imperfect I was that I forgot the topic.
It's so amazing. No, it's beautiful. Because everything you said in the segue and your tattoo, show us your tattoo one more time.
It's my own handwriting too. I wrote it out on paper, and so some people think it's a font. No, it's actually my handwriting.
Oh, it's so inspirational. Well, thank you, Andrea, for being here today. I love everything you're doing and creating. So it's awesome to be able to connect together on this topic as well. And so that's what we have for you guys today. I want to end with just to really appreciate who you are and all that you're becoming. Because as Andrea said, it's not like we're trying to eradicate these, because this is part of the human experience. It's about being more aware, to be present, so you can be in your power. I love it. Okay, well,
and everybody go out and buy Shannon's book.
Yeah, the self-love. We got it back here. The self-love experiment. Books too, because they are awesome.
Oh, thank you, my dear.
Thank you guys, and thanks for playing with the world.